So let's go first with your myth. And I feel like that there's two myths in that, and that is polyamory is for commitment phobes, and that polyam people are consistently cheating, and all polyam people are in relationships are sleeping together. So let's do those three myths, and then I'll get to your question. Okay, does that work? So those three myths basically encompass the same thing about polyamory and a huge misconception about polyamory. Many people in polyamorous relationships are actually extremely commitment happy people. There's a meme going around saying people who are polyamorous have a scheduling kink. I don't think that's wrong in any form of polyamory. There are so many different avenues and types of polyamory that look different for everybody, and every polyamorous relationship is different, and within every polyamorous relationship is different. So you could have, say, one partner where it's a friends with benefits situation, or you're just literally dating. There's nothing sexual, it's just strictly you're dating this person for long. And then you could have like a nesting partner, and there's someone you're living with. Maybe you have a sexual relationship, maybe you don't. Asexuality is a huge intersection with polyamory. And maybe you have a long distance partner, multiple long distance partners, where you only see people at intervals, and you're basically solo poly, where you're just like you have all these multiple relationships. And yes, nesting partner means somebody like you're in a relationship with them and they're living with you. Nesting partner can be very like, I feel like everybody has a different definition within the polyamorous community for nesting partner. Like some say if you have a hierarchical polyamorous relationship, which means there's like a primary metamor and like that's the hierarchy. Your nesting partner could be your primary partner. Maybe it's not your primary partner if you're in a hierarchy, they're the person you're living with. Or say you're a married poly, that's who you're married to is your nesting partner. With dating, dating can look like however you want in polyamory. It's just a matter of communication with the people you're talking to, and the people you're involved with. And another, I feel like with the three myths that I'm talking about right now, a really important term is polysaturation. And that just basically means that you're at your limit for partners. Like you're at your emotional capacity and you're at your physical capacity for handling as many partners as you can. Some people get polysaturated with one or two, and they're still considered polyamorous at that point. Some people can be polysaturated and still have like a open sexual relationship with people, like they have friends with benefit situations and stuff like that. But the polysaturation just means you're not taking on any other relationships, but you could be doing other things in the meantime. Another term within polyamory I feel is very important is communication within it, communication styles. Understanding how your various partners communicate and understanding how you communicate is a huge thing that you need to be aware of with it, because a lot of personalities can clash, and if you are not careful and like you're not careful for yourself, like you're in all of this, and in essence with polyamory, you're responsible for yourself. You're not responsible for how your other partner's relationship goes. There's a lot of trust involved in polyamory. Like a large proportion of it is the willingness to trust your partner and trust yourself and your partners and trust their partners. And that'll come to another myth that we'll address in a little bit. Um, and the next myth will probably address your other question about opening relationships, like figuring out if it's right for you or not. So we'll be addressing that shortly after I finish a couple more definitions. So just to be on the safe side, so polyamory itself means you're like in multiple romantic or sexual connections. I feel like that is an important definition, but also within polyamory, it's not just necessarily romantic connections. You could have almost like polyamorous friendships with people. And a lot of people don't understand that that's a thing, but it is definitely a thing, especially since there is a huge intersection with ace and arrow and grays. Ace, arrow, and gray are on the spectrum within the LGBTQ community. Aces are asexual, arrows are aromantics, and gray is gray sexual. And that means they can like be they're on the spectrum with gray sexual, they're on the spectrum of sexuality and romance. They like shift between gray, like between wanting sex and wanting romance and not wanting romance and not wanting sex. Like they shift. It's a shifting, and it lays on the spectrum. All of these lay on the spectrum under the queer umbrella. And you don't necessarily have to be queer to be polyamory. It's just a huge intersection within it, and polyamory itself is a very huge intersection in many communities, because just how people go about it. Since we're doing definitions, I want to do a couple more, and then we'll address the second question you sent in and the myth that goes along with that. There's one penis policies. One penis policy could be one genital policy. Let's make it less binary, because it's really not binary, and any type of relationship could be the one penis policy. There is also couples privilege, unicorn hunting, and I apologize, my brain is just kind of going like flitty. I apologize, but let's do those definitions, and maybe I'll remember the couple definitions I'm trying to think of. But one penis policy basically means there's somebody in the relationship who decides to make this a boundary. The boundary is there can only be one penis or one vulva involved in the relationship. And so that means whoever their partners are dating are not who, it sounds good, but it's actually, it can become quite toxic. It can be done in a healthy manner, but it is a matter of elaborate communication and just setting boundaries for everybody to be comfortable with. And it's basically controlling who other partners can and cannot see. It makes it less open for partners to explore maybe their sexuality. No worries. Yeah, no worries. Got progress of questions, slow descent. Okay, just yeah, like you don't need to rush to send them in. I am trying to address them the fastest I can. So So that's one penis policy, is basically just saying your partner can't see anyone with the same genitalia as that partner. So if it's someone with a vulva who doesn't want them seeing anyone with vulvas, they can only see people with penises. That's what they're saying. And that cuts out a lot of potential partners, and that cuts out a lot of potential like friends and relationships. Um, it can be done in a healthy manner. It can. I know quite a few people who are happy in those types of relationships. I've been in them where they've been extremely toxic and I could not express myself appropriately. It can become a very controlling environment um, with those policies if people aren't willing to be. I love this term, being rigidly flexible. Oh, my baby is trying to say hi. This is Galileo. Um, but that is basically one penis policy or one genital policy. And you just like with it, just be aware of how it's being used. And hello, yeah, I know, isn't he a cutie? Um, yeah, I have two cats. He's the one who decided to say hi. Um, so the next one is unicorn hunting. And this goes along with the one penis policy. That's why I usually talk about them at the same time. And the unicorn hunters are basically usually a heteronormative couple. So a cis het male and a cis het female, or more often than not, the the female in the relationship is either bi or somewhere on the queer spectrum, and they are looking for, more often than not, a female to bring into the relationship to strictly have threesomes. And keep it like, have them be someone under their control. Um, unicorn hunters can be ethical. I feel like it needs to be a different term if they do it ethically, and that's actually being rigidly flexible about the third person being able to consent to different aspects and them not being completely controlled by the couple. And the couple understanding that anyone they introduce to the relationship, they have no control over the results of what happens in the relationship, and they have to be willing to have those difficult conversations. That is one of the cornerstones to polyamory. Any version of it is the willingness to have conversations. Um, this just reminded me of another definition, and that is don't ask, don't tell. Not necessarily once again, this is one of those types of relationship styles that can become toxic and can become dangerous to your health, especially if you're not talking about sexual health testing and you can't discuss certain aspects of that. It can become very dangerous, but it takes away a lot of transparency within polyamorous relationships. And so within don't ask, don't tell, it is basically, you can't ask questions about what's going on in the other relationships. You can't ask about, like, an example I can think of is I had a friend who actually, you can listen to their interview on my podcast, Orphany Sicarius. They told a story about don't ask, don't tell, and it's a very good example of how it can be toxic. For myself as a polyamorous person, I do not get involved with people who do don't ask, don't tell, because I feel like it's unsafe. And there's, once again, you don't have as much control and transparency in the conversations. Some people know how to navigate it in a healthy manner. Some people are more comfortable with it, and that is their relationship style because they know how they want to communicate around it. With everything I'm saying, I'm not yucking anyone's yum with and basically means however anyone exists within their polyamorous sphere. I don't judge them for it. I can only see it from my perspective and what I've learned and what people tell me. So I'm always open to hear how other people experience it. I try and keep a very open beginner's brain when it comes to all of this. So so that's don't ask, don't tell. Feel like I'm missing a couple terms. If I remember them, I will come back to this, but I do want to address your question, and I know I have a myth that matches your question. And your question is, how do I know that this is the right avenue and not my inability to end a relationship? So I think that actually falls for a of couple of the myths. Actually, I think we might be able to address a few with your question. And that is, polyamory practitioners never get attached to anyone. Polyamorous people don't get their heart broken in breakups. And polyamory people look down on mono people. I feel like could be a part of that. With that question specifically, the way you know that this is the right avenue for you, honestly, I wish I could tell you it's easier than this, but it's trial and error. I know that's probably not the answer you were looking for, but that is the only way you can figure out if this is something you can do. Do your research, like coming to my workshop is a part of that research. Get your questions answered. Figure out your motivation behind getting into polyamory. That is a very important thing to do, is to understand why you're doing this. And I want to ask a question to you directly, is not my inability to end a relationship. So do you struggle with ending relationships? Is that part of the reason? And with those relationships that you are unable to end, are you trying to end, like you're not able to end them because they're unhealthy, or you don't know if, I just want a little more information if you're comfortable sharing. You don't have to share anything you don't want to. It'll just help me tailor this answer to you better. But I can go with the right avenue a little bit more. And that is, understand your motivation for finding it. Like wanting to go into it and everything. The first time, like I'm going to use a real life example. The first time I did polyamory, I was 15. And I had a girlfriend who right off the bat just told me, oh, I'm polyamorous. I want to sleep around with other people. Is that okay with you? You can sleep around with whoever you want. Just no